What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is August 9th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, we're not only going to be taking a look over crypto markets, but I want to try to answer a question. A lot of people believe that in the next cycle, somewhere between 2020 and 2021, that we could reach six figures, that we could reach the big even of $100,000 for Bitcoin. I know it sounds crazy. It's a pretty high valuation. This means we're getting into the trillions of dollars in the sense of valuation for Bitcoin. So is it something practical to look forward to in this next cycle? I'll go ahead and say that I do believe it is a possibility, and a pretty strong one at that with the environment we're walking into. But I want to talk again, as I've done in the past, about the root reason that it could get to that range and why it's not that impractical to think that we could. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it, guys. So as we take a look here over the market over the last 24 hours, most cryptocurrencies are in the red at the moment, as we have just not seen any love for altcoins as of yet. Again, for those of you who are possibly adding in positions right now, like I've done myself, I've added some in a few cryptocurrencies that have been momentum plays that might have a chance of moving even outside of an altcoin cycle. The main thing to take into mind here is that right now, we're not expecting any kind of altcoin cycle until we reach back to 20,000. Just want to make that clear. Now, again, if we take a look here at overall market capitalization, looks like we're setting a third higher low here in the sense of our highs. Again, still maintaining the uptrend. I'm more excited in the case that we set higher lows here and higher highs in the sense of an exit out of the retracement. However, again, I'm going to have to see this break up past the line of resistance here, both on market cap and also on Bitcoin as well, as I've talked about in the previous episodes. So take a look here over the last year in the sense of market cap, blasting towards the 70% mark like we talked about over the last few days. As we started to see, we got above the previous levels here, above 66.6%. It looked like we were well on our way towards 70%. We've continued to get a flush on other coins in the crypto space. Now, if we take a look across the board, Bitcoin still over the last 7 days looking positive. A lot of cryptocurrencies can't really say the same. However, in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin right now is quite neutral. We've hit that range of resistance. So as we take a look at the chart here, again, getting hit down by this line of resistance from the two previous highs that we had. It's nothing complex. But the thing that it looks like to me is that this is going to push through, guys. When you have 3 or 4 days like this, where we've had price pushing up against the line of resistance rather than hitting a rejection like this and going down, it shows that the momentum's coming in. And it makes sense with the devaluation of China's currency and the exposure that Asian markets predominantly have in cryptocurrencies, predominantly China as well. You're going to see pressure on this. I think it was Alex Sanders from Nuggets News who put a really good post on Twitter that correlated the USD CNY pair in this case, basically the devaluation of the Chinese yuan and also the Bitcoin chart. So very interesting comparison. So that kind of leads us to what we want to talk about today, guys. Is it possible for Bitcoin to reach 100,000? I really don't like, for example, I've made some wrong calls in the past. I believed by the end of 2018, because I expected the Bitcoin ETF to come out really quick, I thought we could reach 50K. I thought we were going to, for example, hold the 6K bottom and breakout. I've made some really wrong calls in the past, but I've also done some good ones. I'm usually good at predicting things in bull markets. What are some reasonable ranges we can go to? When are we going to expect corrections? What are some big even levels that price would be weighed down on? So I make some pretty decent calls, I think, for the most part, and I've also made some flawed ones in the past. But I've gotten much better about, setting my expectations for these upcoming cycles and finding ways to measure what we would need in order to get to this kind of price range. So $100,000, no doubt, is a pretty big high valuation. It's a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for Bitcoin, a little over $2 trillion if you consider the entire supply. So do I think that this is a possibility that we could see these kind of prices in 2020 and 2021? And to be fair, I actually do believe it's a possibility. And I want to explain more to a core reason why I believe that's a reality that we could see in 2020, 2021, this next cycle. And the reason why is it's not so much because of some headline piece. I mean, we can list out a lot of the things we believe that are going to fuel this market higher. But I believe it has more to do with the simple fact that as markets increase, you expect to see a rising level of volume. And there's a lot of interesting measures we can use to determine how much volume we should expect for Bitcoin's market as it starts to go up towards these higher price ranges. What would we need in this case? As a market matures and it gets larger, we usually need more liquidity and we need more financial vehicles to start trading on top of it. Well, the first thing we need to consider is the daily turnover in this case, okay? So in a given market, guys, the daily turnover is how much volume there is as a percentage of market cap. Okay, that's exactly what it is. It's basically, look, how much volume do you have per market cap in this case, right? Now, if we take a look here from the Bitwise report, we notice that a lot of volume reported back during the report and still to this day is fake volume. And at the time, they estimated that we were somewhere around 273 million. Again, I've told you guys, I think it's more like 300 to 400 million on a daily basis for Bitcoin. But putting that aside, we haven't even considered in this case that there's OTC markets, that there's Bitcoin futures. There's all kinds of different things that we have to factor in to this volume, right? But let's just keep it around 300 to 400 million in this case. So that 300 to 400 million as a part of market cap when this report was done, back when Bitcoin was around 80 to 100 billion, that amount of volume is the turnover in that case. It's a fractional percentage of the overall market cap. And it's very similar to gold markets. We talked about this again a few episodes ago. So we can get a decent measurement of what kind of volume we would need for 100,000. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of math in this case. So if the turnover we expect is going to be very similar to gold markets in this case, about 0.5%, let's go ahead and take a look at the overall Bitcoin market cap. So to put it just for simplicity's sake, say rough it off, we're clearly towards $200 billion. So at this range, $200 billion, times 1% is obviously 2 billion. Half of that is 1 billion. So in this valuation that we have right now, we would expect a liquid Bitcoin market to be trading $1 billion in daily volume. And with, again, that ratio of 95% being fake, and we're almost at, $20 billion in volume here, actually is a pretty good estimate right there, about $1 billion in daily volume. And that's nothing to shy away. As I mentioned, gold markets, which are multi-trillion-dollar markets, have 0.5% ratio for daily turnover. So Bitcoin's doing fine. Now, what would we need in order to trade at $100,000? Well, we simply just have to calculate, and you're going to get two different types of calculations. It depends if you're taking the current circulating supply or if you're taking the overall arching supply. I personally like to have the overarching supply here, guys. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll bring up the calculator app here, and we'll do a very simple calculation here. Okay, so we're going to have 21 million Bitcoin. Again, we can discount some of this in the case of lost Bitcoin and also the fact that there are still some that have not been minted. But let's just do it for the overarching valuation. So we're going to, in this case, multiply by valuation of 100,000 per Bitcoin. And then from here, we have to simply multiply because we have to have a percentage point. We're going to have 0.005. So we're literally getting half a percentage point in this case. So this would mean that we need about $10.5 billion in liquid volume. This is pretty much the ultimate question. Now we will exceed that most likely during a bull market. We're going to get probably more daily turnover during the craziness of a bull market. But this is what we would need to really sustain an uptrend towards 100,000 in this case. To, for example, kind of remain around that range and still maintain the same daily turnover that we're seeing right now. So is it possible that we can get anywhere in this range and maybe even exceed past $10.5 billion on a daily basis in daily turnover for Bitcoin? I'd say absolutely, because we have not only seen it in the past, we have seen this in Bitcoin's past in the sense of the organic volume across exchanges in certain small periods of time. But in this next cycle, you've got really a lot of things to look forward to. And that is mainly the macro environment that's shaping up for Bitcoin. And we not only have new entry vehicles, we have the brokerage platforms like Fidelity opening up eventually to retail consumers. You have things like Bakkt, you have LedgerX, you have GBTC that's buying a larger supply of the Bitcoin supply for more people who want to buy their ETN. You have a lot of entries, even without an ETF. But the biggest thing is that there's going to be a huge demand, demand versus the shortage that we've seen in this case for cryptocurrency markets. We've already seen it over this past year. It's why Bitcoin has moved as dramatic as it has. But as the macro environment becomes more clear, and if equities start to pull back, and if money starts moving out of the negative yielding bonds across the world, the $15 trillion market of negative yielding bonds, and people start moving into hedges like gold, silver, and Bitcoin, I could easily see this kind of volume coming in. It's really not that difficult to think that there'd be $10.5 billion changing hands in this case on a daily basis. And, it's the reason why I understand a lot of people might get tricked by this volume, right? A lot of the fake volume that's on the market right now. But this is what I would expect, again, into the swing of a bull market at the time when we're trading around 80,000 to 100,000. So again, doing some very simple math here, guys. Sorry, I just realized my calculator's a little bit off the chart there. It's not that difficult to assume that. So anyways, just wanted to talk about that. There are some fundamental ways you can measure this, guys, that you can get a decent understanding as to what you would need for this to happen. So in this article as well, there's a few other things that are going to coincide. And they took some, words from Anthony Pompliano. You guys know him. He is the virus spreader of Bitcoin on Twitter. Anyways, he kind of talked about how it's going to coincide that we're going to have this growing macro environment fear, but at the same time, in the sense of U.S. monetary policy, as the U.S. Starts to really cut back interest rates, start injecting capital in the economy, the quantitative easing that will go on. He believes that this is going to bolster Bitcoin, but we're also going to have it coinciding with the block happening, where we have about 12.5 Bitcoin being made every 10 minutes into 6, in this case, 6.25. So I think in this case, you got that, not to mention you will have the argument that this is going to be gold for millennials and Gen Z. So again, you guys got to determine for yourself in that case. I don't want to set any big high standard goals, but I do believe that the target range for the next high is going to be somewhere between 60 to 100,000. I know a $40,000 gap is going to be pretty wide, but I'm not going to try to make any solidified guesses 2 years out from when we might be setting a peak, guys. All right. I don't want to, try to give you guys any specific number and then you trade off of that. I want you guys to determine for yourself, have your ranges, and maybe it could be, for example, that when we get to that time range, if I'm not certain that we're going to top out at 60,000, a more conservative number, or something more exuberant like 100,000, I might start averaging out. I might start closing some of my positions, wait for a retracement, and then buy more Bitcoin, right? We'll have to see what the severity of the situation is. If the entire banking system collapses, then I'm going to probably want to get out. But at the same time, if it's not that bad, and Bitcoin is overextended, then I would wait for a correction and I would get back in. Again, you got to determine how you want to approach this, guys. If you want to even try to consider trading even the longer term swings, or if you're just going to hodl strong for the long term. Anyways, everyone, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And I want to make two things clear real quick. Just to let you all know, I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling in the fall. So if you guys want to see what conferences I'm going to over the next few months, make sure to check the links down below in the description. We even have some discount codes as well to some of the conferences. But along with that as well, speaking of traveling, I wanted to mention a little bit of news in relation to one of my ambassadorships that I work for, and that is Travala. Travala put out the July report, and we're seeing some really interesting month-over-month growth for Travala here. You can see on a month-to-month basis over 130 additional bookings in the case of Travala. So this is really good to see one of our big crypto merchant solutions coming through with 73% of the total bookings in cryptocurrencies. You can see, for example, a good amount in the AVA token, but as you would expect, climbing through the market caps here, we have some big plays like Bitcoin, Dash, which is very good for supporting merchant payments, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and then a variety of others. So really good stuff to see that Travala is continuing to grow. Glad to be on the team here. And honestly, I can't wait to start traveling, guys. There's a lot of great places I want to go see. I've been kind of stuck at home, kind of working on a lot of stuff right now. I've got a lot of big news and things to come out over the next few months. But yeah, I can't wait to get traveling again. And if you guys are considering traveling as well, definitely check out Travala. Anyways, that's it for the video, guys. Hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And I'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned.